The young woman stood on a metro platform staring directly at a camera. She didn't move, she just stared. Tom, who worked as a security guard, noticed the girl staring and instantly felt something was wrong. But when he stepped out of his booth to go to her, she was gone. He knew he had to call the police immediately. The police arrived soon after Tom's call, but when he showed them the footage, they told him there was nothing they could do, not yet at least. The woman didn't seem to be in direct danger, and she wasn't even at the station anymore, but Tom knew something really strange was going on here. The rest of the day, Tom was on edge, and the worst part was he had to work a double shift. He would usually go home around 6, but today he worked the evening shift as well. And this wouldn't be a problem for Tom had he never seen the woman. The sun went down, and the station got eerily quiet. And just as Tom's nerves started to settle down, he saw a familiar shape walking on the platform. He recognized her immediately, but something had changed, giving Tom chills down his spine. But before we start, smash the like button, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on our upcoming stories. A metro station is a place where many things happen at once. People get off, and on the metro they wait or go home. You could get robbed, or you could find love. But what happened today at the metro station in Brooklyn shocked everyone who had ever traveled through there. It started off as a typical day. Tom arrived at the station in the early morning hours and started his shift as a security guard. He watched as the station filled with people going to work. This was one of his most stressful hours, as he had to be very focused to spot any suspicious behavior among all those people. Luckily for Tom, nothing out of the ordinary happened during rush hour, so he leaned back in his chair and ate a little snack. And normally he could sit back and relax after that, but today was different. Little did Tom know today was a day he would remember for the rest of his life. Hours ticked by and Tom got on with his work. The day seemed like any other day, so Tom had no reason to be worried. He got a call on his phone and answered without hesitation. "Hi," he said happily, and he walked out of the booth for some fresh air. Tom returned to his booth only 5 minutes later. But a lot can happen in only 5 minutes. He looked at the screen expecting to see a deserted metro station with only 2 or 3 people minding their own business, but he saw something different. It wasn't out of the ordinary to see women in the metro station. They traveled through there just as much as men. But there was something about this woman. Tom looked at her and the woman looked at him. When it felt like she was looking straight at him but through the camera. He stared at the woman for a few minutes, and during those minutes, she stared back. The whole time, never breaking eye contact. She couldn't see him, he was a few feet away in a blacked out booth. So why did it feel like she was looking straight at him? Suddenly, Tom was awoken from his stare down with the woman. A metro arrived. A few people stepped out of the metro and only 1 or 2 got on. Tom watched as the metro left again and figured the woman would be gone, but she wasn't. She was still in the same spot, staring at the camera with a strange look on her face. By now, Tom was getting freaked out a bit. This woman gave him the creeps, and he wondered why she was staring so intensely at the camera the whole time. Could there be something serious going on? Maybe she was having a stroke. Tom got up and stepped out of the booth. He looked around, but to his surprise, the woman was gone. How was this possible? He returned to his booth and looked at the footage again. And yes, the woman was really gone. But Tom wasn't one to let go easily. He had to see which way she had gone. As if the woman knew Tom was about to step out, she quickly ran away. She didn't take the metro, and when Tom rewound the footage even more, he noticed she didn't arrive with a metro aider. She walked up the platform, stared directly into the camera for a few minutes, and left again. Tom couldn't shake the feeling something could be wrong, so he decided to call the police. Maybe they had more information about the woman. She could be a fugitive or a criminal, so they might recognize her from somewhere. But when the police arrived, they had some disappointing news for Tom. The police looked at the footage and agreed that it was rather strange. But the woman did nothing wrong, and she didn't seem to be in immediate danger, so there was nothing the police could do. Tom was very disappointed but understood the police couldn't solve this case. As was told before, Tom was no quitter. He had his sights set on the woman and couldn't stop thinking about her. So, he posted a message in a WhatsApp group he shared with his colleagues. And to his surprise, one of his colleagues contacted him in private with a chilling message. Apparently, Tom's colleague, Jonathan, had seen the woman before. She came to the station where he worked last year and did the exact same thing. Jonathan seemed very frightened. Tom couldn't see or hear him, but he felt the fear through his messages. This woman really did a number on his colleague, and Tom would never forget what Jonathan said last. "This woman is bad news. I never went back to that station after that horrible day. She apparently frightened Jonathan so much he asked to be transferred to another station that same day." But when Tom asked Jonathan to tell him more, he went silent. Jonathan stopped replying to Tom's messages and even ignored his calls the rest of the day. Tom was on edge. And the worst part was he had to work a double shift. He would usually go home around 6, but today he worked the evening shift as well. So it wouldn't be a problem for Tom had he never seen the woman. But now, Tom felt frightened, and he wouldn't go home anytime soon. The sun went down, and the station got eerily quiet. and just as Tom's nerves started to settle down, he saw a familiar shape walking on the platform. He recognized the same shoulder-length dark hair, leather jacket, and light-colored jeans. The woman turned around and, without any hesitation, looked straight at the camera. But this time she looked different. Her piercing and serious face had changed into a slight smile. This gave Tom chills down his spine, and he quickly got up and locked the door of his booth. Without thinking, he dialed 911 and asked for the police to come. They failed to do something the last time, but this time she was still here. They might be able to interfere with her plan if she had any. Tom had learned from his mistake the last time, so he stayed inside his booth this time. He studied the woman and looked at every inch of her posture and demeanor. She had no weapon on her, as far as Tom could see at least. But the wait for the police felt like an eternity. And when they failed to arrive after 30 minutes, Tom felt he was on his own. First, he had to think of a way to get closer to the woman without her finding out. Meanwhile, the woman was still looking directly into the camera. She hadn't moved in 30 minutes, and Tom almost lost his patience. He was about to open the door and sprint right at her when he noticed a change on the screen. But it looked like the woman was signing something, but Tom had no idea what. He clung to the screen, trying to understand what she was signing. For he had completely forgotten he could just get out and walk over to her. All he could think about was looking at the screen. The woman's smile had disappeared, and her piercingly serious look was back, but her chin was slightly tilted down, and it was as if she was looking through her eyebrows. And out of nowhere, she started walking. But Tom soon realized exactly where she was going. She was headed straight to his booth. He jumped to his door to lock it, but sighed, relieved when he felt the lock was already on the door. He looked back at the screen and followed the woman's every move. She would arrive at his door any minute now. Tom waited, never losing the woman out of sight. When she was almost at his booth, he turned away from the screen to face the door and waited for her to knock. But to Tom's surprise, the knock never came. His tense body loosened up, and he turned back to the screen, expecting to see the woman walking past his booth. But to Tom's horror, she wasn't walking past his booth. She wasn't even walking anymore. She now stood right in front of his door. But to make it even more intense, she stared straight into the camera again. This was a different camera than before, located directly above the door. It was as if she knew Tom was watching her and as if she wanted Tom to watch her. But why was she so despaired to be seen? Tom had to make a difficult decision. Open the door and ask her what the hell was going on, or stay safely inside his booth and call the police again. The police were of no help the first and second times, so why would they be of any use the third time around? So Tom quickly got that thought out of his head. He was on his own and had to deal with this crazy woman alone. There is an intercom that connects to the platform, so he could speak through there and ask what was up with the woman without ever getting out of his booth. Using the intercom for personal things was strictly forbidden, but Tom felt this situation needed an exception. Tom walked over to the intercom and bent the microphone toward his mouth. He cleared his throat but paused. So he thought about what he should say. Should he be direct and angry at the woman, or ask her kindly to go away? What if she wasn't dangerous and just confused? Tom settled on starting out nicely. If she were to react angrily or act crazy, he would go along with her behavior and do the same. He slowly lifted his finger to the button and pressed it. He could hear a high-pitched beep echoing through the nearly empty metro station. At the sound of the beep, the woman abruptly stopped looking at the camera. She looked up at the ceiling with a confused look on her face. She clearly hadn't seen this coming. Tom hesitated, leaving behind a tense silence after the echo faded away. Everyone inside the station waited suspensefully for what was about to come. He swallowed once, feeling frightened to say the wrong thing. Everyone was listening to his voice. He quickly got himself together and focused only on the woman in front of his door. His voice broke, but he quickly shook off his fear and mustered up all the courage he had left. "Madam," he now said in a more stern tone, "what are you doing in this metro station? Why are you standing in front of this door staring into the camera?" Tom could see the exact moment the woman realized he was speaking to her. She looked back into the camera, but not with an angry look on her face, as Tom had expected. Instead, she seemed very confused. Her scary demeanor had disappeared entirely, but when she was just about to answer, something happened that no one saw coming. The woman opened her mouth to answer Tom's question when she was forcefully interrupted. Two police officers jumped her from behind and pinned her to the ground. Tom jumped from the sudden ambush and immediately ran outside. Suddenly, he didn't feel frightened of the woman anymore, and he wanted to help her. Tom burst through the door and yelled at the officers to stop. The officers pulled the woman onto her feet and cuffed her tightly. Tears streamed down her face as the police arrested her. Tom, seeing her fear, intervened, asking to speak with her. The officers hesitated but agreed. "What's happening?" she asked, frightened. Tom explained that her distraught behavior had alarmed him enough to call the police. Suddenly, she burst into uncontrollable laughter, leaving Tom confused. Once she calmed down, she smiled warmly and assured him she wasn't a threat. Touching his arm, she confessed she had been too nervous to approach him directly. She explained that she traveled through the station daily and had been captivated by him ever since she first saw him. Realizing she only wanted to ask him out, Tom laughed at the misunderstanding. They agreed to a date, eventually fell in love, and now cherish the unique story of how they met. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the notification bell so you never miss another unbelievable tale like this one.